You got the raise. A few extra dollars per hour. A better salary. Maybe even the biggest paycheck you've ever had. And somehow, it still doesn't feel like enough. The rent is higher. Groceries feel heavier. Homes seem impossibly distant. And savings move slower than expected. It's strange. Because on paper, many people today earn more than previous generations did at the same age. But financially, a lot of them feel further behind. And that feeling isn't random. It's structural. Because the modern economy created a strange illusion. Your salary is growing. But the things that build long-term wealth are moving faster. And once that gap starts widening, it becomes incredibly difficult to close. This matters now more than ever. Because millions of people are doing what they were told to do. Study. Work hard. Build a career. Negotiate better pay. And yet, the finish line keeps moving. Not dramatically. Quietly. A little each year. Until one day people realize they're running faster. Just to stay in the same place. So what's actually happening? To understand this, we need to separate two things people often confuse. Income and wealth. They sound connected. But they don't move the same way. Income is active. You trade time for it. Hours. Skills. Labor. Attention. Wealth is different. Wealth grows through ownership. Assets. Businesses. Stocks. Real estate. And ownership behaves very differently from salary. A salary usually grows in steps. A raise here. A promotion there. But assets can grow continuously. Even while you sleep. That difference seems small at first. It isn't. Because over time, continuous growth starts pulling away from linear growth. And that's exactly what's happened over the last few decades. Now here's where things become uncomfortable. In many economies, wages did increase. But asset prices increased much faster. Homes appreciated faster than salaries. Stocks outpaced income growth. Even basic living costs climbed steadily. So people experienced something strange. They earned more money, while becoming less capable of buying the things that matter most. Which sounds impossible. Until you realize the measuring stick changed. Imagine climbing a staircase that keeps extending upward while you climb it. You are moving. You are progressing. But the target moves faster than you do. That's what many salaries are experiencing now. Especially after periods of heavy money creation and low interest rates. Because when money becomes cheap to borrow, it doesn't spread evenly through the economy. A large portion flows into assets, housing, stocks, financial markets. And when more money chases assets, prices rise. Now think about what that means. If you already own assets, your wealth expands automatically. If you rely mostly on salary, you're trying to catch assets that are accelerating away from you. This creates a hidden divide. Not between people who work hard and people who don't, but between people whose income depends on labor, and people whose wealth depends on ownership. And ownership scales differently. That's the key. A person can only work so many hours. But assets don't have that limitation. A portfolio can rise across millions of accounts simultaneously. Properties can appreciate across entire cities. Businesses can scale globally. No extra hours required. Now add inflation into the picture. Inflation doesn't hit everyone equally. That's one of the least discussed parts of the system. If most of your money goes toward essentials, food, rent, transportation, inflation hits immediately. But if most of your wealth sits in appreciating assets, inflation can actually benefit you. Because assets often rise alongside expanding money supply. So the same economic environment creates pressure for one group and opportunity for another. And over time, the gap compounds. Now let's talk about productivity. For years, workers became more productive. Technology improved. Efficiency increased. Output expanded. But compensation didn't rise at the same speed. Which raises a strange question. If modern workers produce more economic value than ever before, why doesn't it feel that way financially? Part of the answer lies in where the gains went. A larger share increasingly flowed toward capital, toward ownership, toward assets, not evenly toward wages. And once again, the difference seems small in the short term. But over decades, It changes entire generations. Now there's another layer. Psychology. Because when people feel salaries falling behind, their behavior changes. Some delay having families. Some postpone buying homes. Some take on more debt just to maintain stability. Others begin chasing faster financial outcomes. Speculative investments. High-risk trades. Short-term opportunities. Not necessarily because they're reckless, but because slow, steady progress feels less believable than it once did. And that shift changes the culture around money itself. Work starts feeling less connected to security, which creates frustration. Not loud frustration. Quiet frustration. The kind that builds slowly over years. Now compare this reality to the public narrative. You just need better budgeting. Work harder. Learn high-income skills. Again, none of this is completely wrong. Higher income absolutely matters. But the deeper issue is that salaries alone are no longer keeping pace with asset inflation. And those are two very different systems moving at different speeds. One grows gradually. The other compounds aggressively. So even financially responsible people can feel stuck. Not because they failed, but because the structure around them changed faster than they expected. Now zoom out. This isn't happening in one city or one country. It's happening across much of the developed world. Asset ownership is becoming more important. Entry points are becoming more expensive. And wages are struggling to keep pace, which slowly transforms the economy itself. Because when ownership matters more than labor, the people who already own things gain increasing advantages over time. And those trying to enter later face steeper costs, higher risks, and slower progress. Not overnight. Gradually. Quietly. Systematically. And that may be the most important part. Nothing here looks dramatic in isolation. A small rise in housing prices. A few percentage points of inflation. Modest wage increases. But when these forces compound together over decades, the outcome becomes enormous. That's why people feel like they're falling behind even while technically earning more. Because the race changed. Salary used to be enough to reliably build ownership. Now, increasingly, ownership determines whether salary will ever feel enough at all. And that creates a difficult question for the future. What happens to an economy when work and financial progress no longer feel connected? Because once people stop believing that effort leads to stability, they start searching for entirely different ways to survive the system. And systems tend to change right around the moment people stop believing in them.